topic I mentioned earlier.
Sorry.
How many had caught Tom's column yesterday on the solar topic, which was very interesting, I thought. But Tom still is the president of the Wisconsin Technology Council. The Tech Council is the nonprofit bipartisan science and technology advisory board to the governor and the legislature. Its programs include the Tech Council Investor Networks, the Tech Council Innovation Network, the Governor's Business Plan Contest, and regular events that connect entrepreneurs, investors, researchers, and others with a stake in the tech-based economy. Tom serves on the board of trustees for the WISIS Technology Foundation, the Industrial Advisory Board of the UW-Madison College of Engineering, the Board of Visitors for the UW-Madison Department of Computer Sciences, the Board of Directors of the Wisconsin Academy of Sciences, Arts, and Letters, and the Board of Directors of the Wisconsin Healthcare Business Forum. He's a busy guy. He is also the former associate editor of the Wisconsin State Journal in Madison, and Tom still writes a syndicated column, which I just mentioned earlier. Tom moderated the Wisconsin Economic Summits in 2003 and helped write the Wisconsin Prosperity Strategy in 2010. He is the co-author of Hands-on Environmentalism, published by the Encounter Books, New York. He was a 2008 winner of the Madison Magazine's Best of Madison Business Award and was named the In Business Magazine's 2010 Executive Hall of Fame. Tom was also a Communicator of the Year by the Public Relations Society of America, Wisconsin in 2012. Please welcome Tom.
Well, thanks, Dan. A much more glowing introduction than I actually deserve. So,
Do you want me to?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
While I struggle to get my glasses on. So, yeah, well, it's a thrill to be here at the Madison South Rotary and pop-up brat stand.
Right.
It's great hearing about that. That's really a great operation. Well, good. I'll just launch into it a little bit there. Thanks again, Dan. It's so good to see some folks here and online who I've known over time. George, and I saw Joe Ballas was on there, going back in time, and Sean here, and of course Tara Ingalls. And so yeah, it's great to see you all. Not doing it? That's all right.
Doing it well.
That's all right. I can just I'll just chat.
Okay.
That's good.
If you could in front and people can see you there.
Yeah.
Online can see you.
Why don't I'll get here and
Oh, in front.
if it's not doing it, I'll just hang here.
Not the file's open, but it's not like on the
Well,
just not able.
yeah, sorry that's not working, but that's okay. We can talk a little bit. First, I want to tell you a little more about what we do as a tech council. And Dan really hit the highlights, but at the end of the day, we do some policy things, starting across the street there, and sometimes in Washington, D.C. as well. We do a lot of things to communicate, to raise the flag about what's going on in Wisconsin, why there's a vibrant tech economy here, why there are reasons to invest here, right? And then we do some events to pull people together. And that's often entrepreneurs, investors, people in the research community, wherever. We try to get them all together. In fact, we have an event coming up November 3rd and 4th. Hopefully we'll be in person here at Monona Terrace. It's called the Wisconsin Early Stage Symposium. And that's one of those get-togethers where a lot of investors are present from not only Wisconsin, but around the Midwest and beyond to meet with these young companies. And we have one thing there. It's kind of like a big speed dating service. It's called Investor Intros. And these young companies come in and meet basically 15 minutes at a time with, oh, it came up. Hey. All right.
She's got to do it. She's doing it over here, Tom.
Yeah, so you'll have to, I'll try and advance
Oh, you
it.
just go up a couple slides maybe. So,
Oh my gosh.
I can't do it here?
No, unfortunately.
Okay. So that's a big event coming up. We have another small event tomorrow. And that's going to be out at the Sheraton, recently remodeled. And our topic is space. and kind of Wisconsin's role in space over time from, astronauts and others who were here, but can bring it forward to what's happening in terms of the commercialization of space, what's happening with how space science and atmospheric science can affect what's happening with the climate change. So that's a good example of what we got going there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about investments because we have something called the Tech Council. Oh yeah, you want? That's good. Maybe one more. We have something called the Tech Council Investors Networks. And these are some publications we've done over time. The last one there on the right side of this screen is our Wisconsin portfolio. That's once a year. We try to chart every single deal, angel and venture. Yeah, George has got it up here.
Nice.
For the in-person audience here. It charts every single deal in Wisconsin that we can find, angel and venture. Venture, there's enough public records usually and tax records and things like that. We can find them. Angel is a little more word of mouth. And so as Dan knows, I mean, that can be, it can come from anywhere at any time, but we think we do a pretty good job of tracking that down. This latest year, 2019, right? That was a pretty big year for Wisconsin. I'll tell you right now, not a big year compared to some other states or some of our neighbors, but still a pretty big year for Wisconsin. 2020, COVID year, basically, right? Everybody thought the bottom was going to fall out. It didn't. It went up. There's a lot of reasons. I think there was a lot of innovation that came out of COVID that many investors wanted to take a look at. But it went up about 30 million. So far, 2021 is already, and here we are mid-September,
Wow,
is already ahead of all of 2020.
wow,
All the records we can find.
that's awesome.
And we're not, it's not done yet, and I'm sure we'll find some more. So that's good. Now, a lot of reasons for that, right? Those of you who might be in financial services know there's a great deal of money on the sidelines, right?
12 trillion.
Yeah.
12 trillion.
Looking for a place to go.
Wow.
12 trillion.
Yeah, looking for a place to go. And so Angel Adventure is one of those places as investors begin to look around. Now, this chart down here shows, angel venture capital can be lumpy, right? I mean, not every year is always up, but you can see here that the overall trend line's been up for Wisconsin, at least in dollars. And that's good. Not as much on deals, but in part that's because some of those deals have matured and those companies are attracting more dollars. And that's a good thing.
Right.
Because when you get a Shine Medical Technologies or a North Star, both out of Janesville, or some of the other companies we've seen here, Grocer Key is a great example. Fetch Rewards, when they start growing, they start adding a lot of jobs. So that's why you might not see as many companies getting as investments as they did in the past, but I hope and believe that's going to go up too now. But you do see more dollars, which is great for the state. So next one. Here's some examples. When I was saying that 2021, it took a nice bounce, especially over the, kind of starting around June, July, August up to date. These are some of the companies that have done well and raised some money. Bright Cellars is out of Milwaukee. I won't talk about all of them. Bright Cellars is basically a new way of marketing and selling wine. Pyran is a chemical engineering company that does work around materials, advanced materials. Fork Farms is in food, as you might imagine. Roddy Medical is started by a nurse over in Milwaukee, and it was a kind of an ingenious way to untangle all the cords and stuff that you see in ICU beds and out in surgical rooms, right? I mean, kind of one of those, gee, I wish I thought of that kind of. Welby is in health IT. OnLoom, a way of better illuminating operating rooms so that surgeons can see what the heck they're doing. DataChat just raised $25 million, and it has a chance to really kind of revolutionize how software is. So that's a company that's right here too. It came out of the computer sciences department at the university. And Jignesh Patel runs that. So some recent examples. Shine and North Star I mentioned, but they have been big raisers. For those of you who aren't familiar with what they do, they have created a new way to produce medical isotopes that are used commonly in medicine in the United States and beyond. Molybdenum-99 is the actual substance that they can create through this process. It is a form of a nuclear reactor, but it's in a form that there's no chances of explosions and proliferation and all the kinds of problems which you see with the current network around producing these isotopes. And by the way, all those plants are in other countries. So all of the medical isotope, radioactive isotopes that come in here of that type are from elsewhere and from old kind of creaky plants. So this is a chance to really put Wisconsin on the map as a new home for that technology. So there were some others there. Paradigm just recently sold. In fact, the CEO for Paradigm is going to tell about their story. They sold for about $450 million. They're over in kind of the far west side of Madison. And that's going to be exciting to hear how they did that. But yeah, some of the stories you're already familiar with, they're still doing great. Epic, Promega, both national leaders. Exact Sciences continues to grow and innovate in ways that are far beyond their colorectal cancer kit. I mean, a lot of other cancers that they're fighting on, and they're really on cutting edge. A lot of times people say, well, geez, some of these young companies, they start here and then they move away. Well, also the flip side is sometimes they start here and stay here and attract big companies to town that otherwise might not be in Wisconsin. So we've seen some examples of that as well. And so that's all good. And it's not just happening here, by the way. There was a time when it just happened here, but that's changing, and that's for the good of the state in so many different ways. That's good. Yeah. I love this map because it kind of shows some of the old, natural resource based really kind of themes around Wisconsin, what we were good at back in the day. Well, we're still good at it, but often now it's technology leveraged. Yeah. Agriculture, food processing, precision farming, animal health, genetics, organics. There's some exciting things at play. I'm not free to talk about yet, but involving animal genetics that could happen here. Natural resources, biofuels and bioproducts, solar, yes, I wrote about that this Sunday. Solar energy right now is the fastest growing share of Wisconsin energy footprint. It's in solar farms, it can be in rooftop installations, it can be a lot of places. Now that doesn't mean it's the biggest share by far, that's still coal, but it is growing. And there's some issues around it. I mean, there's some NIMBYism in some places, I get that. There's some other technical things, especially around storage, that could be holding back. But it's part of the mix. Freshwater tech, forest products, plastic substitutes. Manufacturing anymore is all technology, really, when you think about it. Between AI and robotics and all the different systems that help push it along, I mean, the people are every bit as important as they ever were, but they're also a lot better trained. It's not, it's not my grandfather's factory anymore. It's a way different place. Some of the things that we think, and we try to spend some time talking about this. Predictable cost of doing business. That's not what you see everywhere, but it's more predictable. Affordable housing in most places. Our key startup hubs are on the national radar. Brookings Institution did a piece late 2019, talked about Madison being one of the top rated places to grow. Milwaukee was on there. So that's good. And people have increasingly seen some other places. I'll talk more about it in a second. Healthcare quality has been high even during COVID. I really hate to think about where we'd be if our rural hospital system wasn't as strong as it is. There hasn't been a rural hospital closed in Wisconsin since 2011. So there's a lot of access around the state that otherwise perhaps some states aren't there. I think about some of the states that have maybe the higher death rates. I'm sure vaccination is a part of it, but I'm also sure that it's probably access. Water, power, and infrastructure is in pretty good shape. Geological stability. Haven't had an earthquake, I don't think, since like 1818 or something.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and it's I've never seen a tsunami here. So yes, we have our occasional tornadoes, but even the hurricanes that can be ferocious. We don't get them unless it's a little bit of rain on the side. We have a fully funded public pension fund. Now you'll say, what the heck? Why does that matter? Because our taxpayers won't be called upon to bail it out if it goes under. There are some states that are a lot shakier that way. Illinois, our friends to the south, have a public pension fund that is not fully funded. And I think many companies down there look at that and income taxpayers about when is this shoe going to fall? And that's a big thing for us. Education quality is high in most places. One city's schools, somebody mentioned that, Colleen Care in that operation. That's a really good example of innovation. Tax burden has slowly gone down. Used to be a top 5 state in most categories. Now we're kind of like 15-ish. And maybe that's more commensurate with where we want to be. And I think it's appealing for a lot of places. And in this era of remote work, if you can work anywhere, why not here? I mean, you could live here and work elsewhere. Tara, I don't know, you might have clients everywhere at this point. And so, but you're choosing to be here. And so that's a great thing. And it works the other way around too. So next. Yeah, we can get to the next one there. Okay, there's some more things. I won't go through all this, but these are some examples of the types of ratings that come up for Madison and Wisconsin from time to time, which is good. It's all part of the sales job about why most of us here love it here, and we always try to talk it up and see who's going to join us. So next one. At the end of the day, we're kind of a state of mid-sized cities. A lot of people would think that could hold us back because we don't have, for example, a Twin Cities metroplex that is, 2.5, 3 million, something like that. I mean, it may be even slightly bigger. But Milwaukee's 31st on the list. We're 83rd. And then it comes, Green Bay, Kenosha, Racine, Appleton are among the other large cities. But we have a lot of cities, 50,000 and more, 20,000 or more, 12,000 or more. So we really are a state of mid-sized cities, which is both good and bad. It's good from the sense of community. It can be bad in terms of how the economy works together at times and whether those cities are all really competing with themselves or trying to work with others. In cities, this is a book cover from it's probably close to 20 years now. A guy wrote a book called Bowling Alone, Robert Putnam. He was a Harvard professor. It talked about why cities can't bowl alone either. The notion that, you got to be in a league, so to speak. And so all of these kinds of things really help out. And I would maintain it's private clubs like this, South Rotary and others that are in that service world that are contributing a lot to that because you see and make connections. It's part of what you do, giving back, and you're just helping the whole ecosystem work a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's really a big part. So here I just wanted to point out some examples of other cities. Milwaukee has seen a surge in entrepreneurism. It wasn't always the case. I mean, they were pretty rest on their laurels kind of since for a while. But then they really started catching up, and they are doing great at this point right now, I think. Q and Khalifa El Amin are they're entrepreneurs themselves, and they're doing a lot to help other entrepreneurs in the city and now increasingly beyond. So that's a great example. Yeah, next. Just south of us, Beloit. Beloit, Ken Hendricks, Diane Hendricks, the ABC Supply. Everybody kind of knows that company. And they have given back tremendously, especially in Beloit, to build a stronger base there. And the Ironworks accelerator in Beloit is a really good one. It's attracted a lot of young companies and some companies that come up from Illinois because they're they're a few miles from the border. Next, La Crosse, Don Webb. He's the founder of Logistics Health, a company that, boy, probably today they're probably north of 3,000 employees, I'm going to guess. And a great story. He actually, at one point, had his home repossessed by the county sheriff in La Crosse because they had really hit bottom But he came back, and not only is that company thriving, but the riverfront there is thriving because of Don and his family and company in terms of, putting back into that area. I mentioned Shine and North Star, and that's, that city hit a real big bump when GM went away, but now they've got a strong tech base. Green Bay, Titletown Tech. When I first started with the Tech Council, I don't think you could shoot off a cannon in Green Bay and hit a tech company, a real live tech company. There was just nothing going on. That all changed, and there's a lot of people who came around to do that. The legal counsel and one of the vice presidents for the Packers is a guy who decided, among others in that organization, you know what, in order for the Packers to do well, this community has to do well. And he had some entrees into the venture capital world through members of his family, so he was a big part of it. The president of Microsoft is from Appleton, Brad Smith. And so he, Green Bay was a more logical place to do some things for him, at least. And so Microsoft's very involved there. UW Green Bay is been very involved there. The entrepreneur in residence at Titletown Tech is a guy named Aaron Kennedy, who has ties to the UW Madison. He was a graduate student there. He was the founder of Noodles and Company, which I think it wasn't the first, but the second Noodles is right up here on State Street. I think it's still there.
Really? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah,
so Aaron's been a part of it and kind of giving back to the state as well.
Best tomato soup in the country.
Yeah. So, and Eau Claire, they had some rough times too. They lost a Uniroyal plant at one point. They lost some other sort of older factories there. This guy named Zach Homestead, he and his lead partner in this company called Jam were music students at UW Eau Claire, but they worked on the IT system for the university, learned a lot of things, saw some gaps, and started Jamf, which is now a major integrator of all kinds of Apple products. They've got a bunch of workers in Eau Claire to this day. They have done a lot to help revitalize that downtown. If you haven't been to the Pablo Center at the Confluence in Eau Claire, it's worth a trip or a side trip sometime if you're up that way. They have offices in 8 different cities around the world now. And so, just a couple of guys, beer and pizza in the basement in Eau Claire, and have really been successful and have done a lot in that community. So, and that's really more about that. In fact, Eau Claire next year will bring in, UW Eau Claire will bring in the National Undergraduate Research Students and Faculty Convention. So there'll be probably 4,000 or 5,000 of those types in Eau Claire, which I think is a great opportunity to recruit talent. And this is a board I serve on. It's WISIS, which is short for Wisconsin System Technology Foundation. It is related to WARF. Most people here know the Wisconsin Alumni Research Foundation, right? And all it's done over the years. WISIS is WARF for the other campuses, the smaller campuses. Not Madison, not Milwaukee, but all the other comprehensive campuses. They're seeing a lot more innovation, a lot of disclosures, patent applications, patents, some licenses even that are coming out of the other campuses now, which is great. That's great news for Wisconsin because most economists will tell you 50 miles is often the sort of the prosperity watershed for a university. But that's where most of the companies that come out of that university are going to land. And so if we see more come out of a River Falls or a Stevens Point or an Oshkosh, that's great. It's going to be good for those regions as well. And so, this is spend just a second on this. We started something called the Wisconsin Fund Coalition because, as I noted, while we're doing a little better compared to ourselves, we're not doing better compared to other states in terms of angel venture capital, particularly venture. Right. Minnesota runs ahead of us pretty routinely. Michigan used to be not even on the map, but now they're really showing up. In fact, in percentage terms, they're the fastest growing venture state in the country because they created a series of public and private funds of funds, meaning a venture fund with umbrella venture funds underneath. The governor last session proposed something in his budget. It didn't make it through. We hope that at some time it gets revived. But that's what Michigan did. And they attracted a bunch of outside venture capital firms to the state. So all of a sudden you see some of those big nameplates on doors when you go to Ann Arbor or Detroit or places like that. In fact, venture investors here in Madison also, without diminishing their Madison office at all, also open an office in Ann Arbor to take advantage of what's going on there. So these are some of our members who joined this, both institutional and just individuals. And we had a great list of former Commerce Department or Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation secretaries who were part of it too. So they're really trying to show this is a very bipartisan kind of piece. So lot to be done around higher ed yet. I do think that's one of the things that is key to economic growth, kind of no matter where you are. And you know, you can make the argument we have too much higher ed in terms of the number of institutions. You know, people can look at demographics and argue that, but still, great tech college system, great UW system, and a lot of great independent colleges and universities, which produce an outsized share of STEM graduates. And this was just some things I wanted to point out about that are part of what makes Wisconsin increasingly successful in this world of tech-based development. And you can pick out anything there that you wish, but it's intended to show that this is more statewide than it's ever been. And when we started the Tech Council, it was kind of lonely out there. There was not as much happening in either this city or around the state as there is now. And so it's great to see that there's so much more activity. So there we go. Next, yeah, I guess now we can chat a little bit if we got a few minutes, Dan.
Tom, what makes the University of Wisconsin system a little bit more available for recruiting major professors in different areas as opposed to some of the other state systems in technology specifically?
Right. I think it's because while most of the comprehensive campuses have some common majors, whether it be education, whether it be nursing, whether it be, a few other things, but they also tend to specialize. River Falls has a great ag school as well. Stevens Point is known for natural resources, of course, and Milwaukee is they're now at like a top 100 research institution, which is great, along with the Medical College of Wisconsin. So I think they offer the advantage of, in some cases, location, the ability to advance maybe quicker in the faculty roles, and then that notion of specialization. I think that's very helpful. Yeah.
Joe Ballas online has a question.
Okay, Joe.
Hey, Tom, good to see you and fantastic presentation. I just want to give a shout out to Eau Claire and your comments on Eau Claire. At the end of July, my family did a wedding up in Chippewa Falls and we stayed at the Lismore downtown that weekend. And it's amazing what JAM and that collaboration with Apple have done up there and the revitalization in downtown Eau Claire that's taking place. It really is amazing. And we got talking to some millennials up there that are all kind of part of this. And they see themselves as like the next Portland in 10, 15 years from now of the Midwest. Pretty interesting, but there's a very exciting vibe going on. And I would call it a public-private partnership because there's a lot of investments in bike trails and things like that along that river down there that are just absolutely amazing. So just wanted to follow up on your comments about Eau Claire. It is amazing.
It is. And the Lismore, that's part of the Pablo Properties Group, which is Zach Homestead and others that I mentioned earlier. And, the UW Eau Claire has, I think it's still the third largest university in the state, public university. They have a great chancellor, a guy named Jim Schmidt, who happens to be on our board. Mr. Active, Mr. Partnership, and he really understands the need for a community and a higher education institution to pull together. And so they have invested as well. So yeah, it really does take a lot of different partners, and Eau Claire is a great example of that. Yeah, others.
Lynn is online and said, my husband and I are examples of moving to Wisconsin for all of those reasons.
Oh, good.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Yeah, we're not gonna change the weather, okay? Right? But
Get over it.
Don't make excuses for it either.
Bird escape.
Yeah.
But, you know, I think we're in a great position to attract people, especially from other Midwestern states or northern states. I think we have the advantage of water, where increasingly there are parts of the country where that's a problem. We do have the generally solid infrastructure overall. And so, you know, there's a lot of great reasons to be here. And, you know, it's well reported in pretty much national news media and beyond that California has seen something of an exodus of both employees and companies as they look for other places to be. So, you know, it's we can we'll just raise our hand and say, hey, we're here. Yeah.
Anything else online?
Good.
Nothing else
Okay.
online.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Thanks.